Hello, everyone. We'll give it a minute or so just as people start coming in. I always like to arrive a few seconds early before we kick off this session on fueling every stage. A nice, short 20-minute snapshot look at life stage nutrition. So we'll start shortly, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and hope you enjoy it. We'll be there in a sec. Okay. Okay, everyone, we'll give it another few seconds. I'm just getting a few pings from our lovely technical team, just letting me know that everything's just going out and getting set up. So I'll give it another few seconds before we begin for those that are already joining. But it's going to be a good one, I'm hoping. Sorry for the delay. If anybody's joining and there might be a bit of delay at the beginning of this, it's just because we're making sure that LinkedIn is all live as it should be. So we're just checking in now to make sure that it is working nicely. And I promise I will be starting ASAP. Um, and we'll be ready. Okay, everybody, we will get going with our afternoon event. Really looking forward to kicking this one off. Um, Anybody that was already in this one, sorry for any kind of delay that we may have had. Um, just getting things connected onto LinkedIn, and that was causing a bit of a problem, but we are now connected. So I'm really looking forward to taking you through this afternoon session on fueling every stage. So for those that have come early, really sorry, hope you can join now. If not, we'll still get this content out to you as soon as possible. So for those that haven't been before, I'm Edward Bergen from FutureBridge, a principal analyst, but also looking at the big picture trends in the industry and the outreach that we can do so that we can really tell you about some of those trends that we're looking at and the technologies behind them that are emerging in the industry and the ingredients too. So just a bit of a background. This is part of our FoodTech Trends event. We've already looked at eating my emotions, and this session is on fueling every stage. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to get going. So what is this trend all about? So at FutureBridge, we just see that there's this untapped opportunity to target the life stage where there are just not enough products and services out there in the industry that we think consumers want. So that's what this session is all about. But before we do anything else, I want to just tell you a bit about FutureBridge. We're a techno-commercial consulting and advisory firm. We work across the globe with many clients from the Fortune 500 down to smaller players, regional players as well, really helping them to figure out what they should do with their innovation, how they can combat challenges like regulations and supply chain issues, how that they can find new opportunities in their innovation pipeline, and how to do it too. So how they can implement those technologies into their infrastructures. It's a little bit about us. But today is all about fueling every stage. So life stage nutrition. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do before we even kicked off this story, as I think she's actually in the chat. So anybody's in the LinkedIn chat, you can say hello to Vaishnavi, who's there, who's a member of our team. I remember when we were talking about this theme and topic, and she's done a lot of work on this. Is how can we define what is life stage nutrition? And of course, there's so many factors out there in the industry. And factors that affect this consumer's life that will decide, well, what products and services do they need at any time at different points in as they get older, and also change states as they age as well. So anywhere from their genetics in the first place to their gut, so their the foods that they eat and they've grown up on will change how they interact with certain foods as well, what their activity level is, what their age is, are they married? Are they not? Do they live with different types of roommates? What kind of ethnic background they're from? There are so many reasons that will affect how humans consume food. And I've given you kind of a crazy quick list of them. And actually, in the industry, we may miss this quite a bit. We probably just put consumers into their age groups a little bit and try and figure out, they live in that area. Let's try and target them with the foods that they might like, but we're not necessarily always speaking the same language. And that's where this trend was born. And we're seeing consumers wanting their food providers to really understand them better, understand their health, understand their backgrounds, so that we can really service them. In the world of functional foods, this is going to be an industry that just continues to grow and grow and grow, and grow nicely over the next 5-10 years and beyond, as we find new ingredients that can service our requirements, and just as consumers learn more about their health, and hopefully as many of these ingredients would become more affordable, as they scale too. But what's driving this idea of life stage nutrition? Why are we talking about it this year when it seems to have been a topic bubbling for a long time? Quite simply, let's start with point one here. There just aren't any products. There are not enough products. So let me put it like this. If you look at the supplement industry, it's been ticking along, 50% of launches and growing consistently, a little bit every year for the last 4 years. And there's a really big story here where we're seeing demographic targeting within the life stage space. It is not reflective in food and drink products. Where are all the launches? And most of those in those 2%, declining numbers, most of them are in, functional drinks, i.e., supplements, but they're in drink form. We're just missing a trick here. So this isn't really a trend about me saying, this is trending, why are you not on board? This is a saying, like, why are you not on board? There is an opportunity that's untapped here for us to talk better to consumers. So that's where this comes from. Now, what else? Well, over the next, across the world and over the next 10, 20, 30 years, we're just going to have a much bigger proportion of the population that are older. And old doesn't mean elderly, but it means that we need to service those older consumers better. So what do they want? Well, of course, aches and pains and joints do start to have an impact, but also energy and fatigue amongst, older consumers that we need to service better, and how consumers really care about preventative healthcare as well. It's also a big target in the United Nations to really think about life stage nutrition. So across consumer groups, there are so many opportunities to hit consumers better, anywhere from with young consumers, anxiety, which we talked about in our mood food trend, but also areas like weight loss and weight management, and we'll get into that a little bit. Areas like energy, which changes as consumers get older, and aches and pains and joints and so on. So we will talk about many of these different areas in this presentation and touch on a few of them. But there's some problems. So again, Vaishnavi is on the call, and we were talking to her about, she does a lot of work in clinical studies, and she's done some work this year looking at ingredients in functional foods. And we were asking her, well, why is it taking so long to see these ingredients that are often linked to these very targeted health areas for consumers, especially those life stages? Why are we not seeing them on products? Where are they? We know they exist. Now, one of the issues is it just takes so long to go through the testing process. Clinical studies take 5 years, then you've got to go through food safety and regulations and in different regions and so on. And by the time you get there, well, do they still have the funding to keep going? I guess the positive story, though, is that many of these ingredients have gone on a bit of a journey, and we're nearly at the end. And that's something that we'll talk about over the next few slides. Also, do you want to put all your eggs in a basket of one consumer group? That's definitely a challenge if you say that this is just for one group. At the same time, consumers want it. And in the world of sort of digital shopping, there is opportunities for small brands to pop up and target consumers better. And of course, R&D, it's really expensive. These areas are very, very expensive. And we're seeing brands really playing around in those market conditions in the world of tariffs that we're living in, where it's quite of a challenge to launch new products with new claims to try and target consumers with. So a few things to sort of think about. What we did, and we love a player ecosystem at FutureBridge, so we blew up this space and tried to give you an understanding of the supplements and the food manufacturers that are playing around, in this industry. What I love, you can see, is how specific some of these life stages are already getting. So, of course, with younger consumers, if you've been on these calls before, I like to talk about myself. Of course, I have a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, and my 2-year-old, there's still certain products and services for her which really target her sort of growing up needs. Even, follow-on milk that some consumers buy. But then as my son's 6, he's now just in general, snacks territory. We've kind of moved out of the kind of targeted functional foods, and there aren't that many products and services that seem to be available to him or are in my face that we can buy. And then let's talk about some of the other life stages. If we think about women's health as a key area, what I love that you can see here is how we've managed to see in sort of early stage innovation that this can be broken down into all of those stages, whether it's fertility, prenatal health, postnatal health, whether it's premenopause, menopause, just general women's health, general hormone imbalance, and period challenges, and so on. We are seeing those claims coming out on supplements and in some food and nutrition launches. To give you a bit of a personal anecdote, my wife went through fertility treatment to have our kids, went through IVF, and we, of course, spoke to our fertility doctor. What else can we do to try and improve our chances? And she was told to have things like coconut water. She was told to have all sorts of foods in her diet and drinks in her diet. And of course, you kind of just listen. He wasn't a nutritionist. He was a very good fertility doctor. But at the same time, this kind of unregulated space where consumers are really demanding for help and support in those areas that matter to them most, and there aren't really products for them. So that is the crux of what we wanted to talk about in this trend. And when we look at, and this is something you've seen in some of our other presentations, our composite index for early innovation. And we look at, patent scientific literature, and we look at early investments and so on, startups, to try and come up with some kind of trend line that isn't about sales, that's more about what is happening in those R&D and innovation stages. And across all of these, we're seeing some good growth, some good growth. So, for example, in women's health, we're seeing some really lovely growth. I'm going to show you more about women's health in a second. In infant nutrition, we're seeing some. Teenagers and adolescents, it's just not enough. It's something to think about. In seniors, it's going really well. We're seeing some strong growth around senior nutrition. If we look at women's health in more detail, there are certain areas that are becoming quite interesting, which is around sort of prenatal health and fertility and menopause, perimenopause and premenopause and postmenopause as well. Both opportunities that we're seeing in those early stages, where researchers are really targeting those areas with ingredients, with technologies to help that support those consumers at really particular challenging times in their lives. And it's great. It's great to see. So I'm going to take you through some of them. Some of them are in research phases, and some of them are commercialized. So we'll take you through some stories and see what you make of them. So we've talked a lot about, and especially for certain life stages, but I guess this could be for any consumer, but we wanted to try and understand this is becoming a major consumer interest among, I guess, older millennials uh, and up to boomers. Those different age groups, where the idea of weight management through some of the technologies and the ingredients that we're seeing, like GLP-1 secreting ingredients. You've seen drugs on the market like Ozempic becoming approved in many countries and being given out to consumers more readily in many markets. And this is an example from Japan, from a company called Beauty Health Nutrition, that are exploring using manuka to help support that natural GLP-1 secretion. What does that look like in practice in terms of products? At the moment, it's just messaging. You look at this one from Nestle Health Science. We've got a product like Boost that's been around for a really long time, that has a fantastic following, but they've started to really talk about that idea of hunger support, GLP-1 response. Really quite fascinating and interesting area for us to be watching quite closely, and areas that consumers in various life stages are looking at. So a bit more of a big picture to start off with. If we go a few steps further, we can look at some of the other life stages. The idea of helping to target aging, especially as consumers get into the older ages of adult nutrition, and really supporting some of the challenges that they may go through. So this is an idea, a product from China in pre-commercial stage. Which is a spirulina based noodle, but they also talk about gastro challenges. They talk about metabolism and cell aging as well. So enrich meals and ready meals that can really help that consumer age group. You get examples like this one. This is a company in the US called the Functional Chocolate Company. They were introduced in 2024, and this could have been linked to our mood food trend. But I love the fact that they're really targeting brain health in kids going to school, like my son, who is 6 and nearly 7, called Focus Pocus Brainy Chocolate. It's using ginkgo biloba, L-theanine to support focus, help in concentration, and so on. And of course, chocolatey flavors as well. So I like that idea and seeing that across some of the innovations that we see in snack formats and as well to help those consumers. When we think about menopause, at this stage, we're seeing in the food space kind of that movement from supplement into drinks, into that kind of nutrition-based drink product, powdered drink product that we're starting to see. But I love the fact that it's getting very specific. So it's targeting post-menopause. They celebrate the ingredients. They talk about hormone metabolism, cognitive focus. They talk about energy, all that consumers going through those challenges would experience. So really like that idea. And then what would be the next step of this? We'll be getting into bars and snack sort of products and other drink type products, maybe straight off the shelf convenience. This is another interesting brand from Women in Balance. You've got this one. So we're sticking to our sort of snacks with this is a chocolate product. Really like this one. So back with functional coffee, functional chocolate again, but another completely different claim. You really like the idea. So this is actually just talking about aches and pains and seeing that on a pack, and talking about the MSN. Should I even try to talk about methyl sulfo? Neil methane. I'm really sorry for my pronunciation. They talk about anti-inflammatory effects of those ingredients, and this one is commercialized and on sale as well. So, for me, it's more about the terminology that they're using and trying to speak to those groups without saying this is for a particular age group. This is for aches and pains, and also this is for an exercise group. So maybe it's in sort of post-exercise as well, but it's really talking to those groups. I like this. We're going to finish our sort of list of examples to sort of take you through with this one. This one's always been quite an interesting one to talk about. It has some ethical discussions as well. So a brand called Numi is in the research phase, but it is being looked at by the FDA, by EFSA, and it's talking about creating breast milk in vitro using culturing techniques to create breast milk. Now, the few questions: who is the source? So someone has to source that breast milk, and how do you make that pass consumer groups? Just an interesting anecdote. We asked this question to our team, and they were looking up an example. And you should look this up. Anyone watching, a startup Leche, Leche, and they talked about this ick effect of having breast milk from somebody that you may not know, and they're also looking at people becoming breast milk donors, and there's a whole application process that they go through for you to get to a place where you can donate your breast milk that can be used to create a product like this. But will the future be that we'll have formula that is as good as the real thing because we create it in this way? So really interesting one that we're seeing in France, but check it out. And I'd love to know anybody's thoughts in the chat about the ethical side of things when it comes to, would you feed your child breast milk that's come from somebody else? Maybe so, maybe not. So what does this look like? Now, this just gives you an idea of the breakdown. So what we wanted to do is give a little bit different to previous ones. All the claims that consumers look for at different age groups, whether it be brain health for infants, whether it be immunity for adolescents, and in energy for males, the different sort of consumer claims that we've seen across this board. And then, of course, the ingredients linked to servicing those challenges. And that's what's got quite interesting for us at FutureBridge. So all of these ingredients, we're tracking quite closely. We're trying to understand the claims that you can make, the regulations behind the claims, and in different markets. And so far, this is where we are with the current ingredients that we're exploring every single day. So any questions about this, and you want to see this map in full and how we're approaching it, please ping us. We'd love to know what you think, whether you're exploring them as well, and maybe find out more about who are the suppliers behind some of these ingredients, and bit of a tracking program that you can sort of jump on with it. So check it out. Anyway, something we've been doing every single time is trying to understand what's next. What if? So what could happen in the food industry? Now, we know that there are subscription services that consumers are having every week for supplements. They're having them for meals, and they're having them with Deliveroo, and they've got subscription services. Where are the life stage subscription services? So that it changes as you go through new life stages. You can inform it, but now with technology, it will know anyway, and it starts to recommend health products. If you're weighing yourself, if you're exercising, it will recommend different types of products to service the stage of life that you are in. If you're not getting enough sleep, it should know and it should react. This is where maybe the future will be, and targeting us with ingredients and food solutions, maybe with our in-house 3D printer cookers that we'll all have over the next 10 to 20 years. The next one is, of course, as we go through life, there are certain genetic challenges that consumers go through. So they've had something since birth. They know that they're lacking certain hormones, they're lacking certain nutrition in their diet, or they struggle with certain nutrition in their diet. Can you start early? So the prenatal space, the fertility space, is really interesting. So we wanted to look at that around, is there an opportunity to target genetic areas for consumers that they can go after, when they have a fetus at those early stages, they can start taking supplements, nutrition for it, but more targeted than what we see now. And then finally, just the idea of biological enhancers, but again in the world of 3D printers, and so on, that you'll be able to print functional solutions to really get at the life stage area. So if you're suffering from heart challenges, you'll really go after that particular organ, that particular area that works. And this is about using new technology for precision solutions. So we've seen gummies. Where's the chocolate? Where's the snacks? That's the idea that's next. This is our concept called Choco Snacks, and I hope you like it. That is it for today. Now, just for next time, we've got another event coming up on the 15th, another 20-minute on waste valorization, valorizing the unusable. Scan the code or register or ping me or any of our team, and we are so excited to seeing you there. Sorry for the delay at the beginning. We hope you still enjoy this one, and we will catch you really soon. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and see you at valorizing the unusable. All right then. Bye.